Ban asks, how long are my eyelashes? They're long enough to pull you in.
Hey Jay, Q&A.
So recently, this channel has passed 10,000 subscribers, which is incredible because it happened so fast in the last month thanks to the Monster Hunter community. And as part of that celebration, we're doing this community Q&A where in the last video I asked you guys to ask questions, and now we're going to go through them. I'm going to answer as many as I can. There's about 300 comments on here, so I don't know how many I can get through. The first question is, do you believe in our Lord, God, and Savior, jyuratodus, the fish thing? I believe in its pieces to make more gear. Mason asks, what's your favorite game genre? That's hard to, it kind of changes from time to time. When I was a teenager, I was really big into RPGs. Then I go into these sprees of just enjoying a lot of strategy games. Sometimes I get into card games. The one that's been most consistent has been 2D platformers or Metroidvanias. Metroidvanias is probably at the top right now, but even too much of that can get boring. So I always like to mix it up every now and then, but my most consistent go back to is platformers and Metroidvanias. Tyla McGilverson asks, how do I stay so motivated? It's hard creating content and writing scripts. How do you stay focused, and how hard is it for you? Not for us aspiring content creators, but for you, how hard is it? That's also a good question. It's a lot easier now. It used to be, I used to put a lot more effort into my production where I would script, I would put a lot of editing effects in, and like one video would take me easily weeks to do, and I would put it out to very little viewership, and it was very demoralizing. And I guess, you know, in 2019 is when I went like full out where I'm like, I want this channel to blow up. And I was doing a news show every Saturday that would take me, I got it so efficient, I could shoot the whole thing in 6 hours. So that was pretty much a day of my week gone. Like I was still holding my full-time job. I still have multiple full-time jobs, but anyways. And then I would also do another show on Mondays called Indie Corner. And that was in 2019, and it just would never take off. And I've always been kind of invested in just making content. I've been making videos since I was a teenager, not gaming related, but I just always loved the ideas of creating content through video form. So my motivation comes in the sense that I have this energy in my mind, this creative juices that I need to create, I need to put stuff out there, and video is a way to like scratch that itch. So even though I don't get the results I want, oftentimes I need to create stuff, and that's what keeps me motivated. Now over time, I've kind of, for the sake of keeping my audience entertained with something, I had to pretty much cut parts of my process. And now it's kind of distilled to what you see here, where it's pretty much just me talking to a camera. There is no script anymore. And ironically, it's because I dropped the script that a lot of my close friends have said, wow, you're a lot more like yourself. You're a lot more relatable when you're talking to the camera versus when you had a script, you felt robotic and it was hard to connect with you. So through a lot of trial and error, I think that's what helped me find kind of progress with my format. And it came through simplifying instead of complicating. So I don't know if that helps you in any way. To this day, this is my hobby. This is my outlet for creativity. So it comes very natural for me. I never feel too stressed to make content. And if there's a day I don't want to make content, I just don't make it. Redverse asks, out of curiosity, what was the first game you played that turned you into a gamer? For them, it was Skyrim, when they realized just what games could do. I don't think that's a fair question to me, because I grew up around games before I even had the vocabulary of a toddler. There was an Atari 2600 in my house that we played with, and I think when I was 6 is when we had a Nintendo that entered the household, and it was a gift from my brother. And there's actually a video somewhere, a family video, and I'm just staring at it with no interest, and it would pretty much go on to be my console because my brother didn't play as much Nintendo as I did. So the game that turned me into a gamer, I don't think there was ever a transformation. I think you could almost say I grew up as a gamer. What was the first game I remember playing? Again, I can tell you the first 2 games on the Nintendo I played were, it came with the original Mario Brothers with Duck Hunt, but we also had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. Before that, I remember Frogger being a pretty big hit, but it's not like I liked it that much or anything. Noodles Sigutal asks, How did I meet Krassy and the other people I often interview on that podcast? So I assume, Noodle, you're referring to my Class vs. Crass podcast with my co-host RGT85 and Greg. I actually met them when I tried to get into the gaming industry. And my first step into the gaming industry was joining a website called NintendoEnthusiast.com. And at that time, I came in I just wanted a platform to make videos on, like gaming videos on. And instead, the idea of making my own YouTube channel at that time was crazy. And the Nintendo Enthusiast channel, I had just met the owner of that blog, and I saw their channel had 400 subscribers and they didn't have anything on it. I was like, I'm going to tap into that. An audience of 400 at that time felt big to me. So I made a show called Indie Corner, produced first 2 episodes. And I went to the owner. I'm like, here you go. I will sell you these shows. And if you want them, I will make you a series of 10 more. And he laughed and he's like, I have no money, but you can have the platform and use the channel as you will. I was like, all right, I get to keep all the ad revenue though. Worst deal I've ever done. So I launched a show on that platform, Nintendo Enthusiast, and on the same week, another guy had the same idea. His name was Sean Long, aka RGT85, and we didn't know about each other. And I've just basically his content was garbage when I came on. I'm like, who is this guy? He's ruining my platform. And basically he thought the same thing of like, who's this guy? He looks like a nerd. I hate him. So that's how RGT and I met. And it's been kind of this rivalry since. He then went on to do his own channel. I went on to do Hey Jay. And then Greg was a journalist in that, so he had been covering games long before Nintendo Enthusiasts, and he was working on a sister site called Gaming Enthusiasts, and we met up at E3 2014 was the first time we met, and he's just a cool guy, so we've pretty much kept in touch since. Manuel Saavedra asks, have you played the No More Heroes franchise? It's a truly phenomenal hack and slash with an amazing rogue gallery and really messed up story. Might have censored you there a bit. No More Heroes, I've played the first one. I actually got it when it came to Switch Q4. It's a really weird game. I'm not sure if I can get into it. Fun to play through, but hard to complete just because it's so wacky. It's so ugly. It's so unpolished and unrefined. I don't know if I can get into it, but I acknowledge it is a fun game. Caribou McGee asks again, what game made me fall in love with playing video games? What game had the biggest impact on me? That's a tough question because I've got so many years of gaming, but I distinctly remember I was maybe 12 or so. I don't know when it came out, but when Final Fantasy VII came out, I would always see it at a friend's place. And I was always like, oh my God, I love the aesthetic of the game. I didn't really have a concept of RPGs back then. And I was like, I really like this idea of like going in a battle and having that tactical aspect of things. And it was a game I kept seeing, and I always saw the Midgar section. I never even knew beyond it. And it wouldn't be until like 5 years later that I would finally get a PlayStation 2. And I got the PlayStation 1 disc and I played it myself. And that's when I fell in love with the Final Fantasy VII game. So when Final Fantasy VII Remake actually came out, that was just like pure dopamine. Playing through that entire game was a rush. So that was definitely an iconic one. Another one, I have so many of these, was The Legend of Zelda. Same friend, I kept seeing him playing Ocarina of Time on his N64, and he kept like nerding out about this game and like talking about the big deal that he had a gold cart. I'm just like, all right, this looks like a cool game, but I knew nothing about Zelda at the time, and I must have been 13, 14 at this point. And it was one summer when the N64 was a little bit less hot, someone let me borrow an N64 for a summer. And I remember like it was at that time where I'm not working, so I had to I could just spend all summer gaming. And it was an entire July, I just got to sit with The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And it was my entry point to the franchise. It was a mind-blowing experience where I'm just like, oh my God, like I'm falling in love with this story. The fact that you can age and you feel like the impact of time on your character and the people you care about, that too was a very impactful, and that's what made me fall in love with The Legend of Zelda. So those two games were quite impactful in my life around my teen years. What is my favorite Twitch emote? Of my own or of others? I'm gonna say of my own because there's just too many out there. I think the Smug Toad is my favorite one. It was the first one I had asked to be commissioned, and I love using it to this day. I wish I could use Smug Toad on multiple social media platforms. Which would I rather fight, a Diablo-sized Poogie or 100 Poogie-sized Diablos? A Diablo-sized Poogie, because that would be just adorable, and there'd be so much jiggly bits on his face. Yeah, I'd rather see that. Smart Ojas asks, out of all those Japanese food boxes that you received for your food channel, which Japanese food drink item was your favorite and why? Also, which one did you always despise seeing in the box? Two things I despise seeing in the box. The stick of flavor. It was always just a stick with like some kind of seasoning on it. It was always mediocre or bad. And the other was the do-it-yourself kits, which you will see me rage about each one in each episode because you have to put work into making your thing and then it just tastes like poison. It's lose-lose. In terms of what my favorite one is, it's a little foggy at this point, but I remember the last box I opened, I loved it absolutely. Like that was peak. Usually anything strawberry is kind of a highlight for me in those Japanese food boxes. Martyr asks, am I planning on playing the Monster Hunter World Iceborn DLC after finishing the base game? Yes. Cax007 asks, do I watch anime? And yes, which is my favorite? I used to watch anime more. I don't watch too much TV these days. One of my favorites right now is Food Wars. My go-to for favorite is probably School Rumble, which is a little slice of life type of anime. The character dynamics of that one is just fantastic. And of course, I like all your shonen stuff, the Dragon Ball Z, the Narutos, all of that. But the ones that always stood out to me were School Rumble, a nice comedy slice of life anime, and Food Wars because, man, food and the comedy in that. The Quekinator asks, what's a new weapon type you would like to see in the series someday? A whip. I would love, I've been playing Castlevania a lot. Which was the journey I did before Monster Hunter, by the way. I had never played Castlevania and I went into that as a journey. But in Lords of Shadow, the whip mechanic, I was like, this would be pretty fun in Monster Hunter. And I think they could make it work. So I'd love to see a whip weapon. What do I think of Elder Dragons will be like? Am I nervous knowing I'll have to fight them eventually? They're very mysterious to me. I don't know anything about Elder Dragons other than they're old. I've seen Nigel and I'm not very nervous. I'm more curious than nervous as to what they can offer. Corpora asks, since I've found a lot of popularity with the Monster Hunter community, have I ever been annoyed with the community always pressuring you and such? Not at all. I've felt no pressure. There's a lot of passion coming through this community, and I welcome that passion. And ultimately, I don't feel pressure that I need to listen to A or to B or to do anything. I'm very stubborn in my ways, and I like playing games my way. So I love that there's the passion because it's there when I'm ready to tap into it. But a lot of the times when I'm like, I want to experience this to myself, I just kind of can filter it out and just being like, no, we're going to do this my way. And you see that sometimes in stream, like I'll ask chat and then chat will maybe say something that all want me to do something that I don't want to. And I'll just be like, no, we're going to do it my way for a bit and we'll see what happens. So no pressure. Keep that passion going. The Council asks, what is my opinion of the Council? The Council is an interesting concept. DSTini asks, has the game Monster Hunter World clicked for me? Yes, it has. Nathan asks, has there been a game that's given you the same emotions Monster Hunter has? Not to quite that level, because it would have been one thing if I was playing Monster Hunter by myself, but the fact that there is an audience worth of energy to tap into, it's a whole different feeling of, it's a story that we're going through together. It's not just a game I'm playing through. So everything is heightened. There's times that I streamed Hollow Knight and I made some breakthroughs in Hollow Knight after being stuck on a wall for a long time. And that sense of like achievement was there. But I think it's different when you have hundreds of people that are watching you and that are kind of feeling that with you, and then you get to celebrate with all of those people. So no, it's been a pretty unique experience, to put it simply. Question, is there any monster I dislike? Doesn't have to be hard, just a monster you don't ever want to deal with. The fish monster. I never want to touch that thing ever again. Ibrahim asks a good question. Two questions. If your journey through Monster Hunter World pans out similarly to how it's going so far, do you think you'll be giving Rise another shot? I'm giving Rise Demo another shot. I'll probably try Rise eventually just to see how it compares to World. I do want to have another benchmark to World since I heard it's such an outlier. They also ask, if I could drop Monster Hunter but retain the views, would I? I don't think I would. Actually, no, I would not, because it's been a fun journey so far. Eventually, we're going to have to switch out of Monster Hunter into another journey, but honestly, that's so far into the future, I'm not even thinking about that right now. So a few of you have asked, how did I get this magical cup? And I have to say, this came from an amazing friend who got it for me at PAX East. and I don't know if it's available online, but it was sold by Fan Gamer. So if you can see on their website, if they sell it, you could probably get your own cup like that. And if anyone asks, say, "Hey Jay sent you," just so they know who I am. Michelle asks, when do we get a new Hey Jay Eats? That channel's been on pause because of health issues. Nothing major, nothing serious, don't worry. But I'm hoping to get it back as soon as I can. How do I feel in the Monster Hunter community in comparison to other communities I'm currently in? Outside of the ones I'm currently in, I organized a few gaming trade shows. So I've seen many communities in gaming, and I was never aware of the Monster Hunter community, and I've never experienced such a generous, kind community. And like I've said it before, I've said it many times, but honestly, you guys are amazing. The Monster Hunter community is amazing, and it's just a fun community to be a part of. Now, I haven't gone as deep into the other ones, but I've never seen one that is so closely knit together and so eager to support. And I know that there is toxicity in every community, but honestly, I've seen practically none of it in this one. Liam asks, have I watched Game of Thrones? And if so, how did I feel about that ending? I loved Game of Thrones. I got hooked on it. I did not read the books. And that ending was, by that point, I was just watching it for the sake of wrapping it up. I didn't really care for the ending. It was pretty much hinting heavily that that's where it was going. But honestly, if you've watched Game of Thrones season 1, the game is all about disappointment as a viewer. So it kind of lives up to its reputation. And I'm okay with how it ended. I feel like it wrapped up nicely and it makes sense in my eyes. What boss gave me the most adrenaline in any game? That's a good question. I mean, I don't remember ever having an adrenaline hangover like my Anjanath fight. So that's one for the history books. Other than that, there's quite a few Hollow Knight bosses, which have given me a lot of adrenaline. And outside of that, a lot of the other bosses were like hard, like there's a lot of hard bosses in RPGs. But those are not like adrenaline filled so much because you kind of got time to think and all that. So Hollow Knight, the Pure Vessel, and pretty much everything in the pantheon of Hollow Knight, or the pantheon of Hollow Nest, is tough. And nothing else comes to mind right now. But yeah, the Anjanath fight is a big top leader there for sure. Okay, Hellhound asks a pretty big question, asking pretty much what convinced me to do Monster Hunter. They say typically when someone says play this game, that makes people less likely. And you're right. And you'll see in my videos, even when I'm coming around to discovering the community, I'm hesitant to get into the game because I had already played Rise, didn't like it. And I made a few videos after that. I was like, I'm not going to do this before I actually decide to pledge. Ultimately, what happened is I was already doing this with Castlevania, where I played through a franchise I knew nothing about, and it really opened my eyes to a lot of things. So having had the attention of the community, I'm like, well, now I have a whole community that's interested in this. I'm now interested. I'm already streaming twice a week, and my Thursday streams were always kind of a variety game. So I'm like, all right, why don't we just slot Monster Hunter, see what it's about. And I want to give the game a fair chance because clearly I was missing out on a big piece of gaming by not being in this franchise. And the fact that I had a whole community there willing to help me and guide me, that made it more attractive. And it's all history from there pretty much. The Shadow Dragon asks, what are my 2 Gundams in the back? And this is where you guys are going to find out I am a fake Gundam fan. I've never watched any of the Gundam series. I've only gotten into Gundam building thanks to the pandemic. A friend got me into it where they're like, here you go, I have this model that I haven't built in a while, which is the red one. Built it, loved it, and then for my birthday they got me the blue samurai one. Let me see if I can look it up real quick. So the blue samurai is called the MG Musha Gundam MK2, and the red one is a special limited edition one that was sold, I think, only in the Japan store. Great question here from Razorlime. How does the view discrepancy between my Monster Hunter videos and others affect how does it affect, let's redo that. Great question here from Razorlime. How does the view discrepancy between my Monster Hunter videos and others affect my mental health? Great question. So if you look at my Monster Hunter videos, they get over 20,000 views roughly in the first week. My other ones get a 1,000 to 2,000, which is a huge discrepancy. And I have to say, I'm actually very happy with that because my videos before I even touched Monster Hunter used to get about 100 views on this channel. So the fact that my non-Monster Hunter videos are getting 1,000 to 2,000 views is massive growth. So I'm happy with that. And, you know, I've been in the space, the YouTube space for a while with quite a few friends. We've made a lot of observations, traded notes over the years. And I knew that I could not expect, it doesn't just kind of like snowball. I know that Monster Hunter videos are like tapped into a certain way with the algorithm and they're just going to get more views naturally. But that doesn't stop me from doing all the other content. It's just the nature of the beast. And you can't get too attached. And that, I think we can get philosophical and talk about like social media in general and everything about getting that dopamine hit by seeing the likes and virality and views. It's just noise. Don't let it affect you. I don't let it affect me. It's fun. It's exciting to get kind of that rush. But ultimately the real win here is the fact that my non-Monster Hunter videos are getting a lot more views than it used to. So there's that. And then there's the fact that there's a whole new community. There's a whole new story, a whole new journey and amount of content that I can make with that journey with Monster Hunter. So that's win-win right there. So it doesn't affect me in a negative light. Theo asks, I joked in a video about getting a cat. How serious am I? I had a cat once. If you look at my couch, you can see it's all destroyed because of the past cat I had. I'm more of a cat person than a dog person, so I like cats. I would like to get a cat, and I would love to call it classy, but my lifestyle currently doesn't allow me to have a cat. But maybe someday. They also ask, how good am I at cooking, and will I get Hey J Cook? And will you get Hey J Cooks? I'm better at tasting than I am at cooking. So when I put my mind to it, I can cook some pretty good stuff with a recipe. But when it comes to like, if you toss ingredients at me and ask me to figure it out, it's gonna be gross. Because I don't know the basics of cooking. I know how to follow an instruction. I know how to cook decently. Like I know how to get meat right. I know how to prepare veggies and all that. I just don't know how to put it all together. I need instructions. So take that as you will. What kind of, so this is from Asterisk. What kind of theme park goer am I? The thrill ride slayer, king of the midway, or food stand connoisseur? Not sure what king of the midway is. Are those like the carnival prize things? So I do not like thrill rides. I will go on them, but I usually avoid them. So I'm probably more of a food stand connoisseur out of those three choices. Dragonborn asks, what is my favorite part of being a YouTuber? I'd have to say there's a few parts. Part one, having a platform to create content. Part two, getting to engage and share my passions and my interests with other like-minded people from around the world and discover new things. And there was a third one, but I forgot what the third one is. So we'll stick to those two. DJ Flair asks, what is the weirdest fact about myself that I'm willing to share? Some of you know this, and I don't find it weird, but I know a lot of people do because I look younger than my age, but the weirdest fact is I have a 12-year-old son. So math that out in your head. Meeps asks, I seem to be a Hollow Knight fan. Steel Soul? I'm a Hollow Knight fan. I'm not a fan of Pain though, so no, I have not done Steel Soul. Haunted House Cat asks, what is the weirdest question I could have asked? We're gonna go meta and say, that is the weirdest question you could have asked, which has no answer. Or the question becomes the answer. Gladiator Dragon asks, what is my favorite theme park I've been to and what's my favorite ride in said park? That's tough because I'm thinking of all the theme parks I've been to. It's not that many, but I've gone around the Orlando parks. So a lot of Disney stuff. And so we got Disney. Okay, the Magic Kingdom is special because there's a lot of charm there. But I'd say where I have the most fun, and I don't remember the name of it, but there was a water park in Orlando, which I absolutely love. It wasn't a Disney park, it was a non-Disney park. And I absolutely love the water park rides. I just had a great time there. It's Yo asking about the Gundam, but also what is my favorite food? I'm a big fan of Mexican food. Tacos, burritos, anything with those seasonings, fusion it up. I love that. Nikita asks, have I ever played Pikmin? I own Pikmin 3 on the Wii U, played it, beat it, had a good time with it. Would love to try the first two, but just never got around to it. Arrows Fills asks, out of all of the content I've made over the years, what have been the good, the bad, the funny? Which do you prefer making, even if it might not be the most marketable content ever? That's a good question. I've been making content for over 6 years, and I really liked the idea of a weekly news show. I think that was my funnest one. Hey J News, where I always had a blazer, and it was a scripted one with jokes, and we just went over the week's news in a late night style show. That I feel was the most unique piece of content that just never got any traction, and I really loved working on it, but I felt like I had to do the writing, the research, the editing, the performance. It was a lot for one person, and I'm not the best writer, so I would love to see that like in a full-scale production. Doing some of the skits with my buddy RGT at Nintendo Enthusiast was a lot of fun despite the cringe. I do like skits, and again, if I had more of a team to do those things, those would just be some of my favorite things. One of my favorite ones that I've made, which was a very serious one, was a documentary on the history of Nintendo at E3. It was a 4-part series that lasts about an hour and 20 minutes, and it documents the whole history of E3 from 1995 to 2015 from the perspective of Nintendo. And that one I put hundreds of hours into. It didn't do that well, but it was really fun to research that and put all of that together in a really cool documentary style video. I almost forgot, I also had this one series where I played as a gaming spirit. I cannot share it anymore because it kind of came across as potentially offensive in some regions. But it was all about a spirit teaching someone who had legit never played video games. And it was none of it was scripted, but I played as this 400-year-old spirit that would just show up and teach this person how to play games. And I had a whole like season arc of scripted content for that it was way too difficult to pull off, so we never did. Did the Monster Hunter community have any kind of impact on me as a person at all? Perhaps the way you look at certain fandom groups and games? I would say this is probably the most ingrained I've ever been in a community, like in a fandom. So it's definitely giving me a new sense of appreciation for that. The whole, the fact that this fandom has the mains of the different weapons. I've seen it in other genres and fandoms, but I've never really been a part of it. And it's really cool. I'm really enjoying it so far. Asmir asks, am I a tea or a coffee person? Definitely a coffee person. Coffee over tea any day. Mark has asked, is that a flippin' Hollow Knight original soundtrack vinyl in the back? Yes it is. Unfortunately, I don't have a vinyl player, so I can't actually play it. Question from Naib, what do I think of the lovely Madame Lady Dimitrescu? Oh man, I can't pronounce that. Dimitrescu. You're talking about the vampire lady, I assume. So here's another confession. I've never played the Resident Evil franchise, so maybe that's another one we'll tap into. It was one I was considering getting into here this year, but then Monster Hunter came along. Vado asks, is there a game I could play forever? Considering most of the games that draw me in are the ones that have an arc and an ending, probably not. Every game, although Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition is a game I've been playing for years, and I'd never get tired of going back to that. So if there was a game, I guess it would be Hyrule Warriors. I could probably play that for decades. Jin asks, has a video game ever broken you or just left you emotionally tired by the end credits? I wouldn't say broken, but the final credits of Nier Automata has left me in a very certain mindset. I don't want to spoil it, but that game is very special, and I did make a review of it on this channel. I recommend checking it out. And if you haven't played it, I recommend playing Nier Automata. The story of that really has something to offer at the end. I'm just going to leave it at that. Flashpoint Studios asks, what's my ethnic background? And I'm going to give the same answer I give everyone else. As far as I know, it is simply Caucasian. I have been told I look mixed, but if I am, someone's not telling the truth somewhere in my lineage. But I'm a French Canadian Caucasian with some First Nation in me a few generations back. What's my favorite Zelda game? What would I dream spin-off character focus be for a Zelda game? So Ocarina of Time has a special place in my heart, but honestly, that is the game that brought me into the franchise, and I haven't revisited it in 20 years. So I don't even know if that game still holds up as well today, and I don't want to know. Like, it's so preciously contained in my memories, I just want to leave it there. So that's my favorite. Breath of the Wild is probably the next game that made me feel that same kind of wow with the Zelda game. So those are my two. If we needed a spin-off character focus, I really liked the character designs in Hyrule Warriors. I'd love to see something with like Impa, the Hyrule Warriors Impa, and maybe just like learning more about the Sheik tribe or Sheikah tribe. That could be interesting. Embryon asks, what do I think are my greatest strengths and weakness? My greatest strength. This feels like an interview now. My greatest strength would probably be, if I had to pick one, is finding solutions to problems. And my greatest weakness is I take on far too much work for my own good. Ryan asks, what was the first game that sucked you in and made you either binge the story in a couple days or made you grind for weeks straight? You know, this is kind of weird because I don't really talk about this game, but Infamous on the PlayStation 3, I popped that game in and I couldn't stop playing it for like a good 10 to 12 hours. And I usually play in bursts of 4 hours. And that game, I just couldn't put it down. That was one of them, and SteamWorld Dig was another one. I just could not stop playing. And they're the two games that I remember specifically like stopping. And you know when you're like in a weird daze and you're just like, how long was I playing? And I just like felt off. Those are two games that did that to me. I know they're not the most talked about games, but yeah, they just hooked me in. Peter asks if I can document Etrian Odyssey. It's a gaming series that people need to know about. I've heard good things about Etrian Odyssey. I can only do so many franchise playthroughs, or not franchise, but major playthroughs at a time. So let me finish either Castlevania or Monster Hunter, and then we'll look at other ones. Arado asks if I'm into Star Wars or Final Fantasy. As they've noticed, I make a lot of comments about those. Yes, I've been into Final Fantasy. I've played just about most of them. I've fallen off of it pretty much after 10. I played 12, didn't get into the MMOs. I enjoyed 15, but I find that the PlayStation era was kind of the best ones. I did like the Super Nintendo ones as well. Star Wars was my drug. I got into that during the special edition times. I actually made a room dedicated to Star Wars in my old home, and I used to collect everything and anything Star Wars, and then I kind of fell out of it. But I still watch it. I absolutely dislike the sequel trilogy. I love the TV shows, The Mandalorian, The Clone Wars, The Rebel, all of that is good. So I'm kind of a fringe fan where I'm enjoying whatever they put out, but I'm not going to go into the deep stuff. But I do read the comics, so I guess I used to know everything about the extended universe, but pretty much since Disney bought it, I'm just a casual fan at this point. But I could still probably teach you quite a few things about the lore of Star Wars, at least the old lore, not so much the new one. Marquis asks if I like fighting games. If so, which ones? I'm a casual fighting fan. I don't play fighting games hardcore. The ones I play the most are Smash, Street Fighter 2. I used to be really big in Mortal Kombat 2 back in the day, and Soul Calibur 2. I'm seeing a pattern. A lot of the games that have, when they hit number 2, I like it. And then after that, they just kind of, I fall out of them. Eam Nova asks, what gave me the idea to start YouTube? So when I was in high school, I would make stupid videos, and I loved producing videos. This was way before YouTube was a thing. So the fact that there was a platform that I could, I've always wanted to do it. I even have so I graduated as an engineer. For years, I still wanted to be in film production, and I eventually did a 3D animation program so I could animate and make my own stuff. And then I realized, whoa, this is too much work and I will never make enough money to survive as an artist. So I kind of gave up, but I always had that itch of wanting to create visual content, and YouTube gave me that opportunity. So that's why I'm here. Furcore asks, how do I feel after the channel exploded in popularity after Monster Hunter content? Has it been exhausting to deal and engage with so many people on your Twitch streams and YouTube videos all of a sudden? It's been a lot. The first week or two, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I was scrambling. The Discord needed to be propped up with moderators, needed more organization. The Twitch channel needed to be spruced up. There was so much catching up I needed to do to support a community that big. So the first 2 weeks were a lot. Now I've kind of gone into a flow. I have a schedule that is very comfortable and manageable. I identify as an introvert, so conversations does drain me. So I have to say, after I do a Twitch stream, I go on the couch and I just I pass out. I got to recharge. You might notice in my streams too, when I start, I'm pretty high energy, and probably by the end of the 4 hours is kind of the max I can do on stream. And then I'm just completely drained. And that's why I don't stream every day too. I need pretty much a day to recharge every time. But otherwise, I'm taking care of myself well, and we've got a good rhythm going. Would I rather wake up with one eyebrow shaven or have both of them dyed? I would probably take both of them dyed. I'd be interested to see what colors we could come up with and what that would look like. At least it's symmetrical. Emma asks, if I could have any superpower for Monster Hunter World, what would it be? And how would I use it to defeat Diablos? I would want a double jump, and I would double jump and just vertically slice Diablos all the time. Liam asks, how many mugs do I have? I have probably a good dozen mugs that are just gaming themed, but it's still not enough mugs. Derek asks, after completing my Monster Hunter journey, would I ever consider a Dark Souls journey? That is the one that terrifies me the most because I am terrible at Dark Souls, and I had the similar complaints of Dark Souls as I had Monster Hunter. So I am curious to know, like, to revisit it and to see if I would have the same difficulties now that I have had more training in Monster Hunter. So I might dabble with Dark Souls, but I don't know if I would commit to playing that because those games are way too hard for me. But who knows? Maybe. Jude Lamb asks, would I try an older Monster Hunter game? I will definitely try an older Monster Hunter game because I'm curious to see what world was built on as a legacy. Like, I know that the earlier ones were a lot rougher, and I'm just curious to see what those are like. What's a game I like that not many people like? Star Fox Zero. I really learned to appreciate that game, and of course, as you all know, it just bombed on the Wii U, but it had a certain, once it clicked, it had something special there, and I really would love to play that game with like multiplayer, online multiplayer dogfighting with that. So I recorded this over such a long period of time, I forgot to record an outro. So keep it classy. Do 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 do. Subscribe.